What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the JDW SportsTalkShow, where every fan's welcome. We're officially back, ready to rock and roll for the 2024 NFL playoffs. We're going to go through my entire bracket, my entire playoff predictions. I'll give you my Super Bowl winner. I'll give you my AFC NFC winner, of course. I'm pumped up. I'm excited. It's kind of like a bittersweet time of the year. You're excited because you're getting some of the best games ahead of us. We have some of the best games ahead of us. The sad part is, NFL is almost over. The season's almost over. But at least this year we get the other football league, the XFL and the AFF, I think they're called. I don't know. I don't remember what the other one is, but we get another league this year. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty exciting. But hey, NFL's here. We're ready to rock and roll. First game we have up are the Buffalo Bills and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Bills are at home taking on a hot Pittsburgh Steelers team. I mean, they did just beat the Ravens. Take it for granted. I mean, the Ravens did have a lot of their starters out, but they also had a lot of their starters in. And Mason Rudolph has looked pretty nice. Mason Rudolph has played pretty well, and I've been very impressed by him. But now, you come to the playoffs, and now you got to realize you got to look at the bigger picture and be like, yeah, now there's some tape out on Rudolph. It's got to come to a crashing burn. It's got to come down at some point. Rudolph is playing really well, and Mike Tomlin always has his team playing at a very high level, but the Steelers just aren't gonna. They don't have enough firepower to beat the Bills. Now, the way the Steelers can win this game is if they get a couple of turnovers, they get that run game going, and Mason Rudolph keeps playing the way he does, and just say Josh Allen has one of his bad games. That's all it takes, losing the playoffs. One bad game, your season's over. But that's really the only way I see the Steelers having a shot in this one. I don't see that happening. I see the Bills, I see Josh Allen really locking it in and really taking their game to the next level in the playoffs here. So I had the Buffalo Bills taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers and beating the Pittsburgh Steelers. Next up, you have the Kansas City Chiefs and the Miami Dolphins. I do have the Miami Dolphins pulling this one out. I have them beating the Chiefs, and I know. The Chiefs are at home, and I could see a scenario where the Chiefs, Mahomes, and they just get it going in the playoffs, man. I could see them just getting it to click. They're at home. It's going to be very cold, and that's not a good mix for the Dolphins. If the Dolphins were at home, they would have the home field advantage. It'd be nice weather. But you could also make the argument that's good for both teams. But the Dolphins usually are best at home. They're very good at home. But I think that the Chiefs are going to not be able to make the extra play. The Dolphins, they have Tyreek. I don't know if Jalen Waddle is going to play. Tyreek maybe not even 100%, but I think that Tua and Tyreek and whoever else they have, really, I think they're going to make that extra play over Mahomes. Truly, to be honest with you, and I get it. Dolphins don't play as well, away. I get it. The Dolphins are still very beat up, and they don't have a good pass rush, and that's a big bummer, especially versus Mahomes, especially versus one of the best quarterbacks in the league. If you're not going to have a strong pass rush, then you may have a long night. Mahomes might be able to sit back there, and those receivers might have all day long to get open. And Rashee Rice has looked pretty good at times. Other guys, still Rashee Rice isn't that, it doesn't seem like the answer yet. None of these guys really seem like the answer yet, but it's kind of been the problem. They have Kelsey, but, you kind of focus on Kelsey, and then who else is going to step up and make a play? You don't know. Will the Dolphins be able to run the ball? Or will the Chiefs be able to pound the football? I think if the Chiefs could pound the football and have a good game on the ground, I think they get a good chance, but I just think that they're going to have to make the extra play in the air, and it's not going to be on Mahomes. It's going to be on one of these receivers. So we could also say that the Chiefs and Mahomes, and they've been really holding stuff back just because they were so far ahead in the division and kind of thought they would be able to get away without showing everything. And that's something that you have to keep in mind. When teams are down the stretch, when teams have a pretty big lead in their division or they just clinch the playoffs, it depends on the scenario, but they're not going to want to show everything. They want to keep their best plays. They don't want to show their cards until the playoffs, until when it matters most. And, I think that the Chiefs are going to, they could have they could have a moment like that. But, as a matter of fact, Mahomes can only do so much. They can only do so much when they have receivers that can't actually really catch the football consistently. They can't get open consistently. They can't make plays. While on the other side, you have Tua, obviously Tua is not the best quarterback in the league. It's 100% Patrick Mahomes. Let's get that straight. Let's not get that confused. I don't want you guys thinking I think that. I just think that Tua has a couple more weapons. You have Devon Achane, who's been awesome. You have Durham Smythe, who's actually been really nice as a tight end. You have some receivers that can step up and make plays, and I think that's going to truly be the difference in this game. I have the Miami Dolphins winning their first playoff game, and gosh knows how long it's been, but I have the Dolphins getting their first playoff win in Arrowhead. And it's hard to see the Chiefs losing in the first round at home. But you can't just pick the Chiefs for that reason. But that is a pretty big reason on why the Chiefs could probably win. It's, they're at home in Arrowhead, but you can't just pick them just because it's a wild card and they can't just lose in the wild card. But, the Chiefs did beat them the first time around. It's difficult to beat teams 2 times in a row. I have the Dolphins finding a way, somehow, some way, beating the Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead and moving on to the divisional round. Next up, you have the Houston Texans and the Cleveland Browns. This is a really difficult game to predict. If either team wins, you go, oh, okay, that makes sense. I understand why they won. Yeah, that works. It doesn't surprise me. If either team wins or loses, it's not going to surprise me. It's not going to surprise anyone. The Browns, they have a really good defense, man. And, their offense, you could kind of, some of the arrows point towards the Browns for me a bit because, you have a quarterback that's experienced. He's been in this position before. He's a former Super Bowl winning quarterback now. He's definitely not what he was at one point, but I mean, Joe Flacco has looked phenomenal, but at any point that arm can just take a big dip once again. Before he took that break, Joe Flacco's arm looked horrible. Now it kind of has looked better, maybe, from the rest and such, but I think the Cleveland Browns defense is going to make that extra play. I wasn't a fan of the Houston Texans play calling versus the Colts. I thought that the Texans could have done a lot more. I think they should have taken more shots after that first big shot in the game. I think they should have stayed aggressive. It didn't really seem like they were staying aggressive too much. And if the Texans had like Tank Dell in this game and they weren't as beat up with some of their playmakers, I would pick the Texans here. And I think Tank Dell makes that much of a difference. But Nico Collins, he's awesome, and I think they need to continue to feed him the ball, and it worked versus the Colts because the Colts have one of the worst secondaries, and they have a bad secondary, very inexperienced secondary. But the Browns, it's quite the opposite, and these teams did play down the stretch. Now the Texans were beat up, and it was still pretty close, but I think that the Cleveland Browns are going to make the extra play on defense. I think you have Amari Cooper, you have Elijah Moore, David Njoku. The Texans, they have Dalton Schultz too. I just think that the Browns are going to make the extra play on defense, and I think that experienced quarterback and Joe Flacco is going to make the extra play just because he's been here before. But I'm not saying that C.J. Stroud is not going to play well because last year versus the Georgia Bulldogs in the biggest game of his life, he played his best football ever. And if we have one of those games from C.J., I wouldn't be shocked if the Texans win. Either team can win here. It's not a question of It's not obvious who's going to win this game. That's what I'm saying. It's either way. And the Texans being at home, that could be a big advantage. But at the end of the day, I'm taking the Cleveland Browns. I'm taking that experienced defense, a really good defense. I'm taking Kevin Stefanski in that offense over the Houston Texans. But really, either way, 50-50 game in my opinion. I think the games between 4 and 5 are both of the most difficult games to predict, maybe in the whole playoffs. But let's move on to the next one. Or let's move on to the NFC. So let's start with the Dallas Cowboys and the Green Bay Packers. So the Packers, they've been hot lately, man. They've been hot. They've been a really good football team lately, but I don't think it's going to be enough against the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys are going to be at home. They're undefeated at home. They've been one of the best teams at home. They're very dominant. The offense is dominant, and the Packers defense has played well lately. I mean, it did play the Vikings and the Bears, yeah, but now you're playing the Cowboys. Now you're playing Dak. Now you're playing CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, Brandon Cooks, Jake Ferguson, Tony Pollard, who had a really nice game last game. You have a couple of running backs that can really step up. I think it's going to be a little too much for that Packers defense. And the Packers offense, I mean, Jordan Love has looked really well, and that Cowboys defense, they call a lot of man coverage, yes, and that can be a bit of a downfall for the Packers, the way Jordan Love has played. But I think the Packers, they're also really bad against the run, and Yeah, they were better down the stretch here, but are they going to be able to do it against the Cowboys the same way they did against the Bears and the Vikings? I don't know, but I think the Cowboys are going to take care of business at home. But if Jordan, the thing that's tough about this game is the Cowboys, they're known for not being able to get the job done in the playoffs. They're known for just being choke artists in the playoffs, and they can never get it done. But I think they win. I think they beat the Packers here. They should beat the Packers. Shouldn't be too much of an issue for them. I do expect it to be a good football game, but I'm taking the Dallas Cowboys over the Green Bay Packers. Next up, this is a wholesome matchup. This is going to be a fun matchup. You have the former Matthew Stafford. Well, you have Matthew Stafford's former team in the Detroit Lions, and then Jared Goff's former team in the Los Angeles Rams. They're basically facing each other on each other's old teams. It's pretty fun, but I think Matthew Stafford is going to get the Goff in this one. I can see this game going either way, but I'm pretty confident in the Rams beat the Lions. The Lions down the stretch here, they haven't been, as good as they were in the first half of the season. And, kind of think to yourself, it's a tape out, what kind of Jared Goff are we going to get versus the Rams? But you look on the other, what kind of defense is going to show up for the Lions? That's my downfall for the Lions. Kind of the Rams too, but the Rams, you more so, you can trust Matthew Stafford. You can trust Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Kyron Williams, whoever the heck he is throwing to. He's going to make a great throw. He's going to make great throws all day long, and I don't see Matthew Stafford losing to Jared Goff to the Detroit Lions. I see Matthew Stafford taking the Detroit Lions out of the playoffs when the Lions are finally having one of their best seasons, and how ironic is that? But I do think Matthew Stafford and the Rams are going to beat up on the Detroit Lions. But the Rams, the Lions, it depends on what Lions team we get. They've been very inconsistent. It depends what defense, what offense you get. You never know what you're going to get from them. But I do have the Los Angeles Rams taking the cake over the Lions. But the Lions, they're at home. And, maybe they could take advantage of that Rams defense, but Sean McVay knows exactly what Jared Goff isn't good against. And Jared Goff, you can limit. Jared Goff, you can force to make turnovers. Now, Matthew Stafford, you can't force him to get turnovers. You can't force Matthew Stafford to maybe throw a couple picks, but it doesn't matter what coverage is, if he plays man coverage or what. Matthew Stafford is still one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and honestly, he's like the second or third best quarterback in the NFL for me this year. He was that good this year. And with Matthew Stafford, honestly, the Rams are one of the best teams in the NFL in the last couple weeks in the season. They've been one of the best teams in the NFL. I'm taking the Los Angeles Rams over the Detroit Lions. Next up, you have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Philadelphia Eagles. So the Eagles, man, going into the playoffs, and if you just take these, really almost the whole second half of the season, you could look at the Eagles and say, yes, this is absolutely the worst team in the playoffs. This is one of the, definitely one of the latter half teams in the NFL. Bottom 16 team should have maybe, and I know a lot of people are picking the Bucs here, but you know what? And, coming to the playoffs, it really matters how, sometimes it really matters how hot you are, how well you're playing, and it matters how, how good or bad the other team is playing. The Bucs are they've been one of the better teams in the NFL the last couple, not one of the better teams in the NFL, but they've had a really good, their defense has been playing really well. Baker Mayfield has been playing really well. And then on the other side, they haven't had good quarterback play. They haven't been playing well at all. But I do think the Philadelphia Eagles are going to win this one. And I know it's very contradictory, of me saying, because, sometimes it really matters when, who's coming into the game hot or cold. And obviously the Bucs are the much hotter football team. They've been the much better football team, but I think the Eagles are going to get back to a little bit of what they know. I think they've held back the last couple of weeks, especially this week versus the Giants. A lot of people looking at that game saying, hey, the Eagles are just playing horrible. I say, hey, maybe the Eagles are, just didn't want to show everything and say, hey, it's pretty possible that the Cowboys win their division. So let's not show our cards. Let's not show our hand. Let's not show everything this week. And if we lose, okay, it happens. We're getting to the playoffs next week. Let's reset. Let's put our best foot forward. And then at the same time, what kind of Bucs defense are you going to get? Are you going to get a defense that, and it's kind of the same thing with the Eagles, but with the Bucs defense, you had times this year where that Bucs defense looks like one of the best in the NFL. They look really good, really solid, tight coverage. Other weeks they're blowing coverages all game long. They're just not playing well, not good coverage, or what kind of game are you going to get out of the Bucs? What kind of game are you going to get about with Baker Mayfield? Are you going to get the Baker Mayfield of the last month? are you going to get the Baker Mayfield in the middle of the season? What Baker Mayfield are you going to get? What Bucs defense are you going to get? And I really, truly think that the Steelers, wrong PA team. I do that all the time. When I'm talking about the Eagles, I start to refer to them as a Steeler. I don't know why. It's because, like, I'm from PA. Like I don't know why I do that, honestly. But the Eagles, I do think that the Eagles are going to come out on top in this one. I do think they're going to find a way to win this playoff game. Does that mean I think they're going to go deep in the playoffs? No. But I think they're going to find a way to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I think they're going to move on. So here is my prediction for the wild card. It's my prediction. Here we go for the divisional round. First matchup, we're going through the Baltimore Ravens and the Miami Dolphins. These football teams just played not too long ago. And the Dolphins, they're on a 2-game losing streak going into the playoffs. It's not a way to go into the playoffs, not a way to go into Arrowhead. While the Chiefs, I think they're on a 2-game winning streak themselves, so it's kind of trending in opposite directions. That's kind of what I mean about a team going into the playoffs being hot and losing, or a team going into the playoffs that's winning. The mindsets are completely different. The tone tends to be completely different. Tends to hurt the team that's on the losing streak and really help the team that's on the winning streak. Limping into the playoffs is not a way to get into the playoffs. But I do think the Dolphins will win the first week just because they have a little more firepower and they could get the extra play in with the playmakers that they have. Well, the Ravens. This is a team that has set the stars for 2 weeks. They sat Lamar for 2 weeks. They sat some really good players for 2 weeks. And I say that's might be the only thing the Dolphins have going for them in this game because we just saw the Ravens and the Dolphins play. It was a big game. Whoever won that game, well, if the Ravens won that game, they got the first seed, and they did. And it showed in a big-time game when it mattered most, the Ravens killed it, and the Dolphins didn't. They really struggled. And the Ravens, they dominated them, too. It wasn't even close. They put up a 50-burger. And the Dolphins didn't even reach 20 points. They kind of pulled the Dolphins on the Dolphins. Like when the Dolphins play a pretty bad football team. They pretty much fail to score 20, and the Dolphins typically put up 40, 45, 50+, even in one really rare case, they put up 70. But I think Baltimore is going to win this one once again. Now, it is difficult to beat a team twice, and their starters are sitting for 2 weeks for Baltimore. But, I mean, will Tyreek Hill be 100%? Jalen Waddle won't be 100%. Will he play? I don't know. But I am going to take the Baltimore Ravens at home, getting the rest. And, sometimes that rest can work against you too. But I'm taking the Baltimore Ravens. I think the Ravens win this one. I think they take it home. And I think it's going to be a much better game than the first one. It better be. But I have Baltimore beating Miami. Next up for the AFC. No. Let's go to the NFC now. Let's do the other first seed game. Yeah, the San Francisco 49ers at home taking on the Rams. So the Los Angeles Rams, they've been one of the hotter teams in the NFL, right, this past week, right? Well, in the last 7 games. The last 7 weeks they've been one of the better teams. But they're coming to San Fran. They're playing a really, really good football team. The Niners have been one of the best teams in the last 7 weeks as well. They've been one of the best teams all year long. Brock Purdy playing great. The offense humming. CMC, Christian McCaffrey is awesome. Debo, Ayuk. Kind of what they have an issue with is the interior of their offensive line. And without Trent Williams, their offensive line is pretty horrible. But really, in the middle, it's a bad offensive line. They don't have a good... outside of Trent Williams, this offensive line is not great. And that is something that Kyle Shanahan, Brock Purdy can kind of work around. Because Shanahan is so good at scheming up. Brock Purdy is so good at creating. They kind of mask that at times. And the defense is awesome as well. They did struggle against the Ravens a little bit. Lamar Jackson. That was a heavyweight battle, but the Ravens really took it to them. The Ravens really took it to that defense. And that defense is really well coached. Really good defensive line. But if you have a quarterback that can get the ball out quick and make big plays, you can maybe struggle a little bit. But, the Niners, being at home, being one of the better football teams in the NFL, I still think they're going to lose to Los Angeles Rams in the divisional round. I bet you didn't expect that, did you? The Rams, man, they've been one of the best teams in the NFL the last couple of weeks, and I think this is a game that's going to be a lot closer than people think. This has been my sleeper. I've told people for weeks and weeks and weeks. The Bills are going to make the playoffs, and if the Bills make the playoffs, they are going to make a run. Same thing for the Rams. The Rams are sneaky, sneaky, sneaky. And the Rams, with Matthew Stafford, at the quarterback position, anything is possible. And, I love Brock Purdy. And if you talk to anybody I know, anyone around me, anyone, or if you've heard me talk at all about Brock Purdy, I love Brock Purdy. Such a darn good quarterback. But Matthew Stafford is better. Matthew Stafford has been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL this year. And let's not act like the Rams don't have weapons either. They have Puka. They have Kupp. They have Higbee, who can play pretty well. Kyron Williams. And I think you can maybe get the run game going against the Niners a little bit. And I think the Rams can do that with Kyron Williams. Now, the Rams' offensive line has been better than what we thought it was going to be coming this year. And the Rams' defense, it's the middle of a pack. And you could probably say that the Niners' defense is probably going to make the extra play. But I think this is going to be one of those times where that number 1 seed, you get 2 weeks of rest. And I think that rust, I think them having those 2 weeks of rest, I think that's going to affect them. And that's going to and I think that's going to give Matthew Stafford and the Rams just enough to get by the Niners. It's going to give them just enough. So I'm taking the upset. I'm taking the Rams to go to the NFC Championship. Next up, with the Buffalo Bills at home taking on the Cleveland Browns. The Bills shouldn't have too much of an issue. Now, that Browns defense is very good, very strong defense, but when you're going up against Josh Allen, when you're going up against Stephon Diggs, and you have Gabriel Davis, and you have Khalil Shakir, and you have James Cook, who's been playing awesome, this is a hot football team. That Bills squad, they are a hot football team. They're one of the best teams in the league, if not the best, and I think Josh Allen is going to outduel Joe Flacco and the Cleveland Browns. And the Browns, they have a nice defense. Yes, they do. But sometimes, I think this is going to be one of those weeks where it's just like the offense just isn't going to have enough. Yeah, you have Cooper. Yeah, you have Elijah Moore. You have guys making, David Njoku. Jerome Ford has even been nice. The offensive line is awesome. I just don't think they're going to be able to outscore the Bills. I think the Bills are going to get maybe that extra. I think that Bills defense is going to be a difference. Now, you could say, if this is one of those games that Josh Allen struggles, Josh Allen throws a couple of turnovers, that could be the difference. That could be the difference in any game, whether it's in the wild card, the divisional, the AFC Championship, or the Super Bowl. That one extra turnover, the way Josh Allen takes care of the football, that could be the difference in the wild card round, in the divisional, any playoff game. That could be the difference in a win or loss. But I still think the Bills are going to do just enough. They're going to get by the Browns, and they're going to get into the AFC Championship. But the Browns, they are sneaky. They are sneaky. I could see the Browns winning this game. That Bills defense, they're beat up at times, but they're healthy now. Really good safeties. Defensive line can get pressure. Secondary is pretty nice. So, I have the Bills beating the Browns. I have them beating the Browns in the divisional round. Next up, we have the Dallas Cowboys at home taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. This is where the Eagles season ends. I mean, both times the Dallas Cowboys played the Eagles, the Cowboys outplayed them both times. They were just unfortunate to not win the first time. A couple things didn't go their way. And that's part of the game. It's part of the game. Second time around, Cowboys had no issues whatsoever. The Cowboys dominated them. And this is where this Eagles defense is going to struggle. They're going to struggle against guys like CeeDee Lamb. They're going to struggle against guys like Jake Ferguson, Brandon Cooks, Michael Gallup. And I think the Cowboys are going to be able to run them pretty well too. And you can kind of say the same thing about the Bucs and them be able to make plays. But the quarterback play is much better for Dallas. It's much more consistent. You know what you're going to get from Dak. You know you're going to get a really strong game from Dak. And I think the Cowboys are going to advance to the NFC Championship for the first time since, 1995? Is it 1998? It's been a long time since the Cowboys have been to the conference championship. Maybe it was sooner than that. I don't know. But it's been somewhere around that long. But I do think the Dallas Cowboys are going to get it done. I think they're going to get to the conference championship for the first time in a long time. I mean, Hurts, he just hasn't played well, man. That offense hasn't played well. That team hasn't played well. And I think Hurts turned the ball over a couple times. And, just the way the team has played, it's not going to be enough to get over Dallas. Even when the Eagles were maybe showing everything, because I kind of mentioned, remember how I was saying that team, sometimes they don't show all their cards. Sometimes they don't show their hand. Sometimes they get very conservative and they really hold back. I think that's what they've done. I think the Eagles have done that. but I don't think they've done it versus the Cowboys the second time around. I don't think they did it versus the Cowboys the first time around. The Cowboys outplayed them. We're just unfortunate to lose that one. They didn't versus the Niners. They didn't hold anything back against the Niners. They got smoked both games. They got beat up real bad on both games. And I want once again, A.J. Brown might not be fully healthy. I know he went out. Devontae Smith might not be 100%. I am not confident in the depth of this receiver room whatsoever. And you look at the Bucs defense, it is similar. It is similar to how the Cowboys defense plays. They like to call out a man coverage. And they have a better secondary. So it's kind of easy to think that the Bucs are going to beat them when they're better than the Giants in a lot of ways. But I think the Eagles are going to get into high gear. I think they're going to find a way to beat the Bucs, but then they're going to lose to the Cowboys next week in the divisional round. All right. Next up, let's move on to the conference championships. Let's start with the NFC this time. The NFC, we have the Dallas Cowboys and the Los Angeles Rams. And I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. And the Cowboys, we all know how they play at home. They've been one of the best teams at home. And it wouldn't shock me if the Cowboys won this game and went to the Super Bowl. They have really good offense, and this is where the Rams defense could come to bite them in the butt. Really could. It's where the Rams defense can hurt them big time. But I think the Rams offense is going to get the job done. I think Matthew Stafford has been one of the better quarterbacks in the league. They have a little more firepower. Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Kyron Williams, Tyler Higbee. They have some really nice weapons themselves. And I think the Rams are going to find a way to play themselves into the Super Bowl. I say that they give the Dallas Cowboys their first loss in the NFC Championship. I could see this game going either way. Truly. Like I said, this may be a big shock. You guys may be saying, this guy is something else. Having the Rams beating the Niners, being in the conference championship. Well, I hate to break it to you, but the Rams have been one of the best teams in the last 7 weeks of football. In case you weren't watching them. In case you were just watching your favorite team, with all due respect, the Rams, as I cough, not a good sign, but the Rams are a very good football team. Matthew Stafford makes all the throws you could ask him to make, and another thing I want to mention is, I was saying teams don't want to show their full hand prior to the playoffs, all that stuff. Want to kind of save their hand, save some stuff, and hold back. Well, I think this is one of those things. Even the Super Bowl year, Sean McVay held back a lot in the regular season. He held back a lot because he knew what that team was capable of, and he didn't want to show his full hand in the regular season. And I think that's what might be the difference in these playoffs. The Niners are going to have that extra week of rest, and they're going to come to a Rams team that they haven't seen the last couple weeks. They're going to come to a Rams team pulling out all the stops now. And then next week, the Cowboys are going to have to play them. And that Cowboys defense has been very inconsistent. They play man coverage. They play a lot of man coverage. Cooper Kupp will kill that. Puka Nacua will kill that. Matthew Stafford will obliterate that man coverage with those weapons. And that is why I have the Los Angeles Rams beating the Dallas Cowboys and getting to the Super Bowl. Next up, you have the Baltimore Ravens at home taking on the Buffalo Bills. The Ravens have ran through everyone, man. Or flown. Or, they have flown through everyone. Flying. They've been flying through everyone, if that's what you want to call us, instead of running, because they're birds. All right, let's pretend I didn't say that. But is this where it comes to the end for the Bills? You're playing one of the most dominating teams in the NFL. They dominated the Niners, who I thought was the best team in the NFL over the Ravens. Ravens proved me wrong there. They dominated the Miami Dolphins. They had no problem against the Dolphins whatsoever. Killed the Dolphins. Put up 50 points. They dolphined the Dolphins. But now, you're playing Josh Allen. You're playing the Buffalo Bills. You're playing a team that has probably been holding back. Well, no, because they had some big, they have big games every single week. They weren't holding back, but this is going to be a masterclass by Josh Allen. Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Khalil Shakir, Gabriel Davis, Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox. I think this is one of those games that the Bills are going to find a way to beat the Baltimore Ravens. Let's not forget, a couple weeks ago, the Bills absolutely destroyed the Cowboys. They destroyed the Dolphins at the beginning of the year. They beat the Dolphins. They swept the Dolphins. Let's not act like the Bills haven't beaten some really good teams, and they were a couple plays away from beating the Eagles. And like I said, it takes one turnover or two to be a difference in the game, and Josh Allen can do that. Josh Allen's very good at doing that. But I say that the Bills' defense is going to show up big in this one. That the Bills' defense is going to find a way. The Bills' defense is going to show up big, and the Bills' offense is going to show up big. Josh Allen's going to have a good game. He's taking his checkdowns. He's having a really good game. They're going to run the ball at James Cook well. They're going to throw the ball at James Cook. I think the Bills are going to upset the Baltimore Ravens in the AFC Championship. Like I said, my playoff bracket is bold. I'm going very bold with this playoff bracket. But this is very possible, man. You know, a lot of people, I'm not going with what the media is going to say. 90 to 95% of your playoff brackets are probably going to have the Ravens and the Niners in the Super Bowl. Well, I don't have either of those teams in the Super Bowl. As I've just spoken into existence, I have the Bills and the Rams in the Super Bowl. Who would have thought you were going to watch this video and you were going to see the Bills and the Rams in the Super Bowl? Well, here you go. Here you go. The Rams have been one of the hottest teams in the NFL the last couple weeks of football. The Bills have been one of the hottest teams in football. And I said, you let the Bills in the playoffs, they're going to wreak havoc. The Bills are going to find a way. The Bills are going to make a run. And they're going to make a run to the Super Bowl. This is the year they do it. This is the year they do it. They're hot. They're hotter than any other team in football. They're one of the best teams in football, if not the best. And just to say they don't have a shot to beat the Ravens, just so, everyone's saying they're not going to beat the Ravens. I think you're wrong, man. Josh Allen is great. He's going to run the football really well. He's going to give the Ravens defense a bit of a problem they haven't really had all season long. A guy that can throw the ball down the field 40, 50, 60 plus yards, and then, of course, run all over you as well. That Ravens defense is awesome. They're good, don't get me wrong. They're really good. But Josh Allen, the Bills, they're going to find a way to get past them. The defense is going to play really well. Josh Allen is not going to have bad turnovers. This Bills team is going to kick it into a different gear in the playoffs, I'm telling you right now. And the Rams as well. The Rams are going to shock a lot of people. They are going to bust a lot of brackets. The Bills and the Rams. Well, both in Las Vegas. But, all right, let's talk about the Super Bowl matchup I have here. The Buffalo Bills taking on Matthew Stafford and the Los Angeles Rams. I could see this being one of those Super Bowls being a lopsided Super Bowl. I can see the Rams. I can see the Bills beating up on the Rams pretty bad. I could see a Super Bowl like that if this was the matchup. But the way Matthew Stafford plays, the weapons that he has, he's going to keep every game close in the playoffs. Matthew Stafford is going to kill it in the playoffs. He's going to play really well. But it's not going to be enough versus Buffalo. It's not going to be enough versus Josh Allen and the Bills. I think Josh Allen, the Bills, they're going to go through playoffs, man. They're going to have a big playoff year. It's finally going to be the year. The Chiefs aren't at full strength, but now you got to go through the Ravens, who are arguably one of the more dominant teams we've seen. But I say the Bills are going to do it. I say they're going to beat the Rams too. And I say, and yes, I have the Buffalo Bills as the Super Bowl champs. I do. And don't get me wrong, this will be a very good game in the Super Bowl. And I understand this is a very bold bracket. It wouldn't shock me if the Rams went out in the wild card because of their defense. It depends on what Rams defense we get, because that defense can struggle. That defense can give them problems. But I think that the Rams defense is going to be fine. I think they're going to be middle of the pack, and that's all they're going to need. I think Aaron Donald, Byron Young, and that defensive line is going to wreak havoc in the playoffs. And on top of that, you're going to have Matthew Stafford, Puka, and what they have, the rest of the offense, I think they're going to have a really good playoff run. But versus the Bills, I think that's going to end. And I know everyone's going to look at this and be like, wow, bro, you're wild. You're a moron. I'm ready to hear it. I wouldn't be shocked if either of the teams make it. I wouldn't be shocked if both of them make it. But Josh Allen's going to have a good day against the Rams. Stephon Diggs is going to have a good day against the Rams. And the Bills are finally going to be Super Bowl champions. So that is my bracket predictions. That is my entire 2024 NFL predictions. And I would like to hear what you guys think. Give me your thoughts. Give me your predictions. Who do you think is going to win the Super Bowl? Who do you think is going to get to the Super Bowl? I'm ready to hear the comments saying that I'm crazy. That's okay. I'm not going to go with the media. I'm not going to go with what everyone else is saying. I'm going to go with what I watched, with my information, and who I think is going to make it. The Buffalo Bills making the Super Bowl and beating the Los Angeles Rams. So that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you for tuning in to the JDW Sports Talk Show, where every fan's welcome. Hope you guys enjoy this video. And, of course, if you did, like I just said, make sure you like and subscribe. Put the post notification bell on so you don't miss any future videos. This is the JDW Sports Talk Show, signing off.